Oh, he's an egg?
defeated. His strongest form we've seen in the show so far is
wait, he's a
called
chicken?
Count Niwatori, and it pretty much makes Tomo look like an oversized
all 35 forms
final
in One
forms
Piece.
in One Piece. And today we'll be
Explained.
ranking each one. These transformations include Devil Fruit Awakenings, science, unique
Okay.
abilities, and even some mysterious unexplained transformations that you wouldn't believe are real. For example, Orochi, the tyrannical shogun of Wano, has a really cool final form that makes him look like a giant 8-headed snake. This transformation
that
is
looks
achieved
cool.
through his mythical Zoan Devil Fruit, and despite size
Devil
and
Fruit.
strength, this form also grants Orochi 8 extra lives, 1 for each head of
8
the snake.
lives?
This means that
Okay,
he
makes
needs to
sense.
be decapitated 8 times in order to permanently die. Although this form had immense potential, Orochi was still pretty weak and was easily defeated, making this the weakest
Was he
form
just,
on the
like,
list.
kinda dumb?
1 covered, 34 more to go, and let's
guess,
continue
maybe.
with one of the weirdest final forms in the entire show. Although Vegapunk was initially just a
Can they
regular
go-
human, at some
Can they go like higher than their final form? You know what I mean? Like that's their final form, like, and then surpass it. I guess like Luffy does, right?
point, he decided
gets
to
to a
create
certain point,
satellites
that's
of
his final
himself.
point,
He did
and
this
then-
by splitting himself into 6 different bodies, all with their own personalities inspired by parts of himself. After this
That's kinda
process,
cool.
Vegapunk's brain was stored in Punk records and pretty much acts like a
Punk records.
library that all of his satellites can access. I guess someone becomes a cool giant snake and someone just becomes a huge brain in a tube. A far cooler transformation is
Five
Gecko
head.
Maria's final form,
In real
which
life,
he can
I
achieve
mean,
through
in
his
real life.
Kage Kage no
Anime
Mi.
five
You see,
head.
throughout the years, Maria stole shadows of many people he crossed
They s-
paths with, and he mostly
Wait,
used
he
them to
steals
create an
shadows?
army of zombie warriors. However, if enough shadows are collected, Maria can use them all at the same time and absorb them into himself
Can
in
you use
order
the-
to transform into his final form. This
Can you
form
use
is called
people's-
Shadows Asgard, and once transformed, Maria pretty much becomes a huge monstrous version of himself with spiky hair and horns.
people's
His
powers?
physical strength is also increased to
I don't think so,
insane
right? I think he
levels
just
as he was
grows.
able to split Thriller Bark in half with a single attack. Due to his massive
Damn.
size, Maria's speed is reduced in this form, and also, if he's hit hard enough, he'll start throwing up shadows, making him slowly lose strength.
That's
Although Hogan
nasty.
Jones
He's
wasn't that
vomiting
strong and got defeated
shadows.
relatively easily, he has a really cool final form. During the events of
Okay.
the Fishman Island arc, he began to take energy steroids in order to get stronger.
Energy
Each pill he took
steroids.
doubled his strength, and he took, well, a lot of pills. He became visibly bigger, faster, and
Bro's
even
about
his
to get a
teeth
heart
became
attack.
sharper. In his steroid form, he was able to turn water droplets into bullets and hurl them at
Downing
his
steroids
enemies,
like it's
and was strong
nothing.
enough to break entire ships with his jaws. And if you like the video so far, here's the steroid pill that you can take that will make you strong enough to absolutely destroy the subscribe button.
Yo,
Go ahead,
okay,
try
don't
it.
take
Thanks.
steroids,
When we
that's
were introduced
weird.
to Momonosuke for the first time, we learned that he ate an artificial fruit that was a replica of Kaido's Uo Uo no Mi. However, this can't really be considered the final form as he was only able to transform into a small child dragon. However, during the climax of the Wano arc, Shinobu managed to artificially age Momonosuke
Did he
using her
level
devil
up?
fruit, which transformed him into a gigantic dragon just like
Oh.
Kaido's. In this form, Momo gained a
Could he fight
massive
Kaido?
increase in strength and durability, and his bite was even able to hurt
Oh, he
Kaido.
does fight Kaido.
Later on, during his fight against Green Bull, Momo was able to perform Kaido's Bolo Breath attack and succeeded in damaging the Admiral. Okay, some of the transformations so far were pretty cool, but there are still 30 final forms left to cover, and
Jeez.
some of them near the end are completely mind-blowing. Throughout the
feel
series,
like
we
so
learned
far they're
that
pretty
Chopper
strong
can
already.
transform into multiple different reindeer
Chopper!
forms by using his Rumble Balls. Although all of these forms are useful in certain situations, without a doubt his strongest final form is Monster Point. Initially, this
Monster
transformed
Point.
Chopper
Oh,
into a
damn.
huge reindeer monster with no
looks
emotions and a
crazy.
thirst for chaos. However, after the time skip, Chopper learned how to control this
Chopper
form,
is like
which
the
made it even
cutest.
more dangerous. Additionally, he's now able to stay
And
in this
the,
form for much
like,
longer,
most
a
badass
maximum of 30
in one.
minutes before reverting back. Although Virgo was introduced all the way
Did that
back
steak
in
on his
Punk
face?
Hazard, his final form remains one of the most unique ones in the entire show,
Okay.
even to this day. Virgo's final form involved him
Let's see it
coating
then.
his entire
Oh
body
my
with
God,
armament
dude.
hockey, which was never seen in the series.
What is he
since
covered
then.
in?
In this form, he was able to stand his ground against some
What-
of the
what
Straw
is, like,
Hats and
the armor
even
on him?
injured Sanji's leg when they clashed. Even though this may be the
Or is it
coolest
just purple?
looking form on this list, as it turned out, it wasn't that strong, as Law was still able to cut Virgo in half using his
Okay.
Devil Fruit. Tamago's Devil Fruit, Tama Tama no Mi, pretty much turns him into an egg and allows
guy
him to
just looks like a
regenerate into a
goofball.
stronger body each
Oh,
time
he's an
defeated.
egg?
His strongest form we've seen in the
Yo.
show so far is
Wait, he's a
called
chicken?
Count Niwatori, and it pretty much makes Tamago look like an oversized white rooster with wings and a mustache. In this form, he's
let's go.
stated to be the true knight. Although this form's abilities
I
were
love
never
that.
revealed, we know he managed to survive Pedro's explosion at point-blank range with no injuries, which means
just
his
looks-
durability must be
I mean,
on
that
an
looks just sick.
extremely
I don't
high
know if I
level.
do-
Even
it's
though
like
Caesar's
freaking
Gasu
chicken,
Gasu no
bro.
Mi already transforms him into a ghost-like form, there's actually one thing he can
Gas?
do to transform even further. You see, among other things, this root allows Caesar to absorb other gases and take their properties.
Oh.
He showcased this during his final battle against Luffy when he fused with a chemical weapon he created which completely transformed his appearance. This form is called Shinokuni, and when transformed, Caesar becomes gigantic.
What if he
and the
inhales
color
like
of his body
nuclear
also
gas?
changes to purple. Due to being infused with toxic gas, he's also much
Oh, I guess that's
deadlier in this form. And
I
his
guess,
opponents
yeah,
have
nuclear
to be
gas,
really
yeah.
careful
I mean,
not to get into
toxic
contact
gas.
with poison. This was shown when Luffy punched Caesar and his arms became coated
How can
with
you-
poison. Pika's
how can you
Ishi Ishi
punch
no
a
Mi allows him
gas?
to merge with and manipulate stone. So you bet there are many cool
I mean, that's a
transformations he
freaking
can pull off
badass,
with this ability. However, by far his strongest form is when he merged with the entire Dressrosa castle and became a huge stone giant.
Oh my
In this
God.
form, Pika
What
is
if you just
obviously
merged with the
incredibly
whole
strong,
island?
But most importantly, he's almost unkillable. You see, Pika can freely move his real body through the stone, meaning that it's really hard for the opponents to land a good hit on him.
Or is there
are still
limitation
25
to it?
forms left, and let's continue with Compone Bege.
Why stop at a
Bege's
castle?
devil fruit is called Shiro Shiro no
Do the
Mi,
whole
and it pretty
world.
much turns him into a castle human. And although being a regular human castle is cool, this is not all that this
Bro,
fruit
that's so
offers.
weird.
Bege's final form is called Big Father, where he transforms
actually
himself
just a-
into a giant fortress. This
Yeah,
fortress
actually
is
just
equipped with cannons and is able to
a
house
fortress.
hundreds of people. This is pretty much a last resort technique that Bege
reminds me
uses
of
to
that
protect
Pokemon.
himself and his crew. And although it is incredibly durable, a strong enough attack
you know what
from
I'm
the
talking
outside can force him to deactivate it. Hawkins' final form is called Strawband's card, and when activated, Hawkins creates a gigantic straw
does he
monster.
pick
This monster mimics
cards?
Hawkins' movement and is pretty much an extension of his real body. The
He's a
straw
magician,
giant
huh?
wields a variety of weapons and also possesses
Probably not.
incredible strength, as even Zoro struggled to defend against
was he
its
riding
attacks.
Chop?
One downside to this form is that Straw Giant's behavior is dictated by tarot
Oh!
cards Hawkins draws, meaning
Oh, he's
that
like a
luck is
tarot
a
guy.
big component of whether this form will work properly. Brook was originally a regular human, but after dying at sea, he was reincarnated with the help of
Wasted.
his devil fruit, Yomi Yomi no Mi. Once reincarnated, Brook's appearance completely changed to that of a skeleton. Throughout
I
the
mean, he's
series, Brook
technically
kept
dead.
evolving and eventually learned
Did
how to
he
use
die?
the energy from the
Nah.
underworld to create ice. Not only that, but he also got the ability to exit his own body and roam freely like a ghost. All of these abilities eventually earned Brook the epithet, the Soul King. However, by far the most impressive final form so far is Usopp's final form, Sogeking.
Okay.
While in this form, Usopp becomes
It
one of
doesn't
the
look so
strongest
threatening.
characters in the entire story. It's said that in this form, Usopp could take down all 4 emperors together without breaking a sweat, although it was never officially confirmed. Sogeking is also very humble and doesn't like to show off his strength, so I'll put him in 22nd place for now,
Oh.
although we all know where he actually belongs. Robin ate
Okay,
the
does he?
Hana no
Does he
Mi, a
actually?
devil fruit that allows her to sprout multiple body parts on any surface and even create full clones of herself. Although the
Okay.
basic abilities of this fruit
That
were
could be
already
a
pretty
useful
strong,
ability,
during Robin's
you know what
fight
I'm
against
saying?
Black Maria, she managed to bring them to a whole new level. Robin's final form is called Demonio Fleur, and when transformed, she
Oh my
creates
God.
a giant copy of her upper body with a pair of bat-like wings, shaded skin, fangs and horns,
Oh my.
giving it the appearance of a devil. Although Robin didn't get any new abilities in this form, her physical strength was massively increased to the point that it allowed her to finally defeat
Oh my
Black
God,
Maria.
that
Even
picture.
though Cavendish was originally introduced as a gag
I might have
character
to do
during the
some,
Dressrosa
research
arc,
on
none
that
of us
character.
expected him to have such a terrifying transformation. Like a few other characters on this list, Cavendish's power-up consists of him transforming into his alter ego, Hakuba. Hakuba awakens when Cavendish falls asleep and grants him tremendous speed and bloodthirstiness.
Oh,
in this
geez,
form,
he's like a
he's too
vampire.
fast for eyes to track him. Even with observation hockey, he can barely be
Or
seen.
something.
In this form, Cavendish defeated Dellinger, one of the officers of Don Quixote pirates, instantly without being seen. This is an impressive feat considering that even some of the Straw Hats had trouble defeating other officers. Throughout his entire life, Frankie has always been obsessed with
Frankie.
building things and has even made cybernetic enhancements to his own body. Although many of
He's
these
basically
enhancements
like
significantly
a-
increased his strength, there is one upgrade that can be considered Frankie's final
robot,
form,
right?
General Frankie. General Frankie is a huge mecha robot that Frankie can pilot and control. The
I guess-
robot's body is installed
Does he
with
do the dance
advanced and
too?
powerful artillery with destructive power that's significantly greater than Frankie's regular weapons. It's
has
also
a drill drill on
extremely
his head.
resilient to damage, shown when most of Baby Five's explosive attacks were
What
not
was
powerful
that?
enough to harm it.
Where is that kind of
despite her claim
located?
that even a pacifista would not resist her techniques. In this form, Frankie was even strong enough to defeat Sasaki of the Beast Pirates, although
What
his
the
body
hell?
suffered immense damage during the battle. Even in their base forms, minks are weird intelligence and the ability to speak. However, they have a really unique power that allows them to
Minks?
transform into a much stronger version of themselves called Sulong. Mink's Sulong form is clearly inspired by werewolves, as during the full moon they can transform into fully white creatures, significantly increasing their strength. Each mink during the full moon is at the peak of their physicality. They become feral with long claws,
She turned
sharp
from a
teeth,
rabbit
and way
into a
more
wolf.
hair. When in this form, Mink's electro power is also greatly increased, and they're able to constantly emit electricity
got
throughout their
electro
body and
powers.
perform much stronger attacks. If you're wondering how strong this form is, just remember that Orochi in his Sulong form was enough to defeat Jack of the Beast Pirates, which is an impressive feat. With that,
It looks pretty
exactly
strong.
half of the final forms are covered. But can you believe there's still 17 forms stronger than these? And one of
okay.
those is Enel's 200 million Voltamaru form. Although
my
Enel's
God.
devil fruit doesn't change his looks
Wait, why is he
anyway,
so
when
big?
he pushes its power to the absolute maximum, he can transform into a huge electric giant, a
Wait, he's
Maru.
a massive-
In this final form, Enel pretty much looks like a big and fat sumo wrestler with spiked hair. When transformed, all of his electrical attacks become much stronger. However, we never got to see the full extent of this power as he was quickly defeated by Luffy, who was immune to his electricity. But if it was anyone else,
Is it
they would've
because
had
he's
a
got the
really
rubber
hard
fruit?
time dealing with this
Oh,
thing.
that's
Another
good, that's
incredible
smart.
final form with huge destructive potential is Avalo Pizarro's final form. At some point, Pizarro ate the Shima Shima no Mi, a devil fruit that allows him to merge with islands. During the fight against Blackbeard pirates and Garb, we've seen
what
Pizarro
I
use
said.
this ability to its full extent, merging with the entire Hachinosu Island.
Oh
In
my
this form,
God.
the entire island becomes Pizarro's
eat
body,
them?
and the big skull becomes Pizarro's head. He's also capable of creating huge arms out of the island's ground to attack his enemies. Although his body is massive in this form, he's not invincible, as both Kobe and Garb showed that a powerful enough attack can still damage him to
Just
some
like
point.
destroy the
Kid
whole
is the
island,
worst
right?
generation member, and the wielder of the Jiki Jiki no Mi,
Somehow.
a devil fruit that allows him to control magnetic forces. With this ability, Kid has complete freedom to create pretty much anything he desires by
kinda
pulling
cool.
a lot of metal together. However, his most powerful form so far has to be the Punk Rotten.
Oh.
This form's name literally translates to
I
the
like,
demonic demon, and to
punk
achieve it, Kid has to
steam
pull a lot of
characters.
gigantic chunks of metal together in
Steampunk.
order to create a protective suit around him. Just like Frankie's final form, this one's also kind of a mecha
looks
suit that Kid
crazy.
can control from the inside. Also, the suit's arms aren't
Yo,
connected to
that
the head,
crown
and are
on the
instead held
skull
by
looks
magnetism, which
insane.
allows for more unpredictable attacks. However, one thing that makes it significantly more dangerous than General Frankie is the fact that Kid can rebuild this demon as many times as he wants due to his magnetic abilities. For most of his adult life, Kuma was just a regular buccaneer with a really powerful devil fruit. However, at some point in his life, in order to save his daughter, Kuma agreed to be experimented on by the world government and by Dr.
Oh,
Vegapunk,
so that's how he became
eventually
like
becoming
that.
a cyborg called Pacifista. Kuma's cybernetic enhancements made him even stronger than he was before, and he was even capable of shooting
Was
laser
it
beams
worth
out
it,
of his
though?
mouth. Kuma's endurance was also greatly increased in this form, as he was able to
Bible.
protect Thousand Sunny from many attackers for the full 2 years before the Straw Hats returned. Magellan's devil fruit is called the Doku Doku no Mi, and it pretty much allows him to create and control large amounts of deadly poison. The power of this fruit is what eventually led to Magellan becoming the warden of Impel Down Prison, as no one was capable
He's
of
like the
escaping his
gas guy,
poison no
though.
matter how skilled they were.
A little
During the
bit.
climax of the Impel Down arc, in order to prevent Luffy and the others from escaping, Magellan activated his strongest technique called Venom Demon. When this technique is activated, Magellan produces an enormous amount of poison and forms a huge devil-like entity with it. In this form, Magellan's poison could affect non-living objects, and it would even spread over everything that makes contact with
Oh.
it. Magellan claimed that this technique was potent enough to destroy all of Impel Down. And by the looks of it,
Could it destroy
yeah,
buildings?
I think I believe him. Yamato is
It
the
said
child of Kaido, who ate
non-live-
the Ino Ino no Mi, model
Things are
Okuchi
not
no
alive,
Makami.
so
This
maybe.
devil fruit allows Yamato to transform into a legendary wolf deity, also known as the guardian protector of Wano. We've seen this
Oh.
form of Yamato for the first time during his fight against Kaido, where he managed to hold him off until Luffy's comeback. In his final, full beast form, Yamato completely transforms into a wolf with white fur, fangs, sharp claws, and tail. He also has a cloud-like veil around his body, which could hint towards this being his awakened form. Besides transformation, in this form, Yamato also has ice-related abilities, able to expel ice blasts from his mouth and even coat his body with ice for added protection. Rob Luchi, the strongest of the CP0 operatives, was one of Luffy's toughest opponents due to his incredibly powerful Leopard Zoan transformation. However, during Egghead, we learned that at some point off-screen, Luchi managed to awaken his devil fruit and achieve his final transformation. In this form, his size increased, he became slimmer, and dark dark clouds formed a mane around his upper body to signify awakening. While transformed, Luchi was able to tank a couple of hits from Gear 5 Luffy before being defeated, which is no small feat. After that, he was also strong enough to battle against post-Wano Zoro for an extended period of time, and they seem to be on a similar level of strength. When you remember that he lost to Gear 3 Luffy before the awakening, this transformation becomes even more impressive. Only 10 more final forms are left to cover, and from this point on, all transformations are on a completely different level than before. Marco's transformation is pretty straightforward. Due to his devil fruit, the Tori Tori no Mi, he can transform into a blue-flamed phoenix. Just like the actual mythological phoenixes, he's got the ability to fly, regenerate from almost any injuries, and even heal others too. This transformation is so strong that it allows Marco to easily fight against both Queen and King, the two strongest members of the Beast Pirates, and even restrain them with ease. Due to his regeneration, Marco can just ignore most of the physical attacks and let them phase through his body, as his wounds will instantly vanish without a trace. Yeah, the guy's pretty much invincible. Sengoku, the former Fleet Admiral, ate the Hito Hito no Mi, model Daibutsu, which grants him the ability to transform into Buddha. In this form, Sengoku drastically grows in size and becomes golden. His strength and power are also greatly increased in this form, to the point that during the Marineford War, no one could stop him. He was able to greatly injure Luffy with a single punch despite Luffy inflating his body, and was later able to go against Blackbeard's entire crew with no problem. Another ability this form grants Sengoku is Impact Wave, which allows him to launch golden shockwaves from his palms that can damage the entire group of strong enemies at the same time. Hopefully we can see more of this form in the future. Sanji, the cook of the Straw Hat Pirates, has always been impressively strong since his introduction at Baratie.
It's crazy how he's just like a cook, but then he's
Sanji
not.
was just a regular
Just
human.
a cook.
But during the Whole Cake Island arc, we finally learned the whole story. His father, Judge, experimented on him and his siblings while they were still in the womb in an attempt to give them superhuman abilities. Although these abilities lay dormant within Sanji for a long time, they finally awakened during the Wano arc when he used Germa's advanced tech suit. In this form, Sanji pretty much becomes superhuman with an exoskeleton that makes him nearly invulnerable and an accelerated healing rate. Even after being completely crushed with all of his bones broken, Sanji still managed to stand back up with his body snapping bones back into place. Sanji's genetic modification also made him much faster than before, to the point that he's now able to move so fast that he's completely invisible to the naked eye. He managed to defeat Queen in this form and is currently fighting against Gorosei, which goes to show how strong he really became. Zoro is the primary swordsman of the Straw Hat Pirates, who practices a really weird style called three-sword style. As the name states, he uses 3 swords, placing the third one in his mouth. And although that sounds weird, Zoro's final form is even weirder.
Zoro's gonna be like
it's
fan
called
favorite,
the Asura, and Zoro can activate it through sheer willpower alone. Once activated, Zoro creates an illusion of 2 more heads and 4 more arms, transitioning into 9-sword style and resembling demon god Asura. Although Zoro developed this technique pre-time skip during his battle against Kaku, it's during Wano that we saw just how powerful this form really is. Zoro infused this form with powerful Conqueror's Haki during Onigashima, and his attack was strong enough to leave a permanent scar on the Emperor. That's something only Odin has achieved before. However, by far the most important use of this ability was seen at the end of the Wano arc when Zoro used Asura to eat and drink all at the same time. Now that's what I call the ultimate ability. Green Bull's devil fruit, the Mori Mori no Mi, may seem like a regular Logia devil fruit, but it's much more unique than the other ones. Instead of letting him transform into a certain element, this fruit lets Green Bull transform into and control all plant life. His most powerful transformation we've seen so far consists of him transforming into a huge tree man. When transformed, he can attack his opponents with enlarged fists.
Could he technically turn into a whole forest?
Also seems to have significant upgrades in strength. Big Mom is an incredibly powerful pirate, possessing all 3 types of Haki and also wielding an insane devil fruit called Soru Soru no Mi, which allows her to manipulate souls. With it, Big Mom can steal the souls of other people and put them into non-living things, giving them life. However, another thing Big Mom can do with these souls is infuse them into herself. This is exactly what happened during her battle against Kid and Law when she stole Lifespan from a bunch of beast pirates around her. When infused with souls, Big Mom gets significantly bigger, stronger, and even her eyes start glowing. These infused souls can also merge with Big Mom's skeleton, allowing her to heal broken bones by commanding them to return to their proper structure. It's truly a frightening power, and it allowed Big Mom to stand her ground against Kid and Law, who were both awakened Devil Fruit users. The 5 Elders is a group of the highest-ranking celestial dragons, who, along with Imu, secretly control the world from the shadows. Although they were portrayed as politicians for most of the show, and not fighters, that all changed recently during the Egghead Island arc. It's here that we saw their true forms for the first time, and learned that each of them can transform into a devilish creature from Japanese mythology. In their final forms, Gorosei have the black fire cloud around their bodies,
Is it a
hinting towards
Kappa?
these being their awakened forms. They also
The
have some of the
thing?
most unique abilities we've seen in the show so far. First of all, they appear to be immortal, with all of their injuries
Unique.
healing instantly.
Immortal,
Secondly,
okay.
all of them can communicate with each other telepathically. And
Okay.
lastly, using some kind of invisible aura, they can hurt people simply by looking at them. The creatures Gorosei transform into are Gyuki,
Isn't that like
Sandworm,
Haki?
Bokotsu, Fengshi, and Izumare. Kaido ate the Ue no Mi,
Technically,
model
like some different
Seiyu,
version.
which allows him to transform into a giant azure dragon. Although Kaido is an absolute beast in this
Kaido-
form and can perform a large variety of strong
Kaido's such a
attacks, this
beast.
actually isn't his final form. His true final form is called Flame Dragon
Whoa.
Torch, and it manifests when
Okay.
Kaido breathes a large amount of flames from his mouth, which coat his original dragon body and take its shape. When in this form,
He's
Kaido's
like a lava
already huge
dragon.
body becomes even bigger, rivaling
fire dragon.
Onigashima in
I mean, yeah,
size.
fire dragon.
Due to being coated with fire, Kaido can almost instantly melt anything he comes into contact with, which prevents his opponents from touching him. We unfortunately only saw this form briefly, since Kaido was defeated by Luffy soon after, but honestly, I don't think anyone else besides Luffy could survive this. Before we cover the strongest final form in this
Top
video,
two?
let's first cover another groundbreaking transformation, the Big Emperor. The Big Emperor is probably the most brilliant creation of the
Yo!
Straw Hat crew to this day. This transformation involves
the
6
hell is
different
this?
Straw Hats merging into a giant mecha robot. The Big
Like a
Emperor
robot.
is not particularly battle tested, but its power could probably rival the likes of Roger and Whitebeard.
I mean,
in their
hey, it's like,
primes.
how many?
Okay,
5
jokes
people
aside,
in one?
This transformation is so cool that I couldn't make this video and not mention it. And if Robin agreed to complete the transformation, it would probably
Where
rank
would
the
she
One Piece
go?
world. As the main character of the show, Luffy has many unique and powerful transformations,
Babe.
ranging from really cool and strong ones to some,
there gonna be
well,
Gear 6?
less strong ones. However, it's during the Wano arc that
That's
Luffy
me.
finally awakened his final gear form, Gear 5. Luffy achieved this form through the awakening of his devil fruit, and it's pretty much the pinnacle
There's gotta
of
be
power.
Gear 6,
when
huh?
transformed, Luffy's entire outfit turns white along with his hair, and his eyes become
But
red.
that's when the-
In this form, Luffy
that's
can do
when the One
pretty
Piece
much anything
ends, when he reaches
imagines,
Gear 6.
which includes turning everything around him into rubber, running on air, absorbing any attack, and even catching thunderbolts with his bare hands. However, the coolest thing Luffy can
Basically,
do in this form is
became
force
like
rubber
Zeus.
properties onto his opponents, which would make them appear dumb and cartoonish. Okay, Gear 5 is obviously the most ridiculous and strongest final transformation in the story,